July is here, and that means we are halfway through 2025. There have already been some amazing new bourbon and whiskey releases here in the first half of the year, and more to come as we move into the back half of 2025. In this video, I've handpicked 11 different bourbon and whiskey releases that you should be on the hunt for as you head out to the liquor store here in the month of July. So grab a glass of your favorite pour, and let's jump on into the list. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Brandon Spinner, the Whiskey Weatherman, and you have stormed into the one YouTube channel where it is always whiskey weather. Now, before we get into the whole list, I want to ask you, what has been your best find so far here in 2025? Has it been a bottle that's been escaping you for several years, or is it one of those brand new releases? Drop that in the comment section, and let's get into number one on my list. Now, number one on my list is probably the most affordable bottle on my list, and that is coming from Green River with an MSRP of $49.99, the Green River 250th Army Anniversary Edition, which dropped right there on Father's Day weekend, June 14th, which is actually the exact date of the 250th birthday of the establishment of the United States Army, way back from 1775. Bottled at 111.1 proof. This comes in at that proof point because that is a signifier of Veterans Day, 11/11. Now, this is a very special blend. Of course, it is celebrating the United States Army, but it comes from a blend of 4 to 7-year-old barrels with a distinct mash bill of 77% corn, 14% rye, and 9% malted barley. I was able to grab a bottle of this late in the month of June, shortly after the release, in that bourbon hunt up there with my grandma in the state of Wisconsin. You can check out that video a little bit later on. I've got that linked in the description below as well. But that is number one on my list, one of the more affordables. I really enjoy Green River, and I've heard good things about this one. Now, number two on my list is a bottle that right now I believe you can only grab at the distillery or through their private direct-to-consumer club called P Club. That's from Pursuit United. That is the Pursuit United Cognac Rye, which is a blend of 3 different mash bills or 3 different whiskeys coming from Bardstown Bourbon Company, and the other 2 ryes coming from Sagamore Spirits out of Maryland. This is bottled at 108 proof, which is the normal Pursuit proof for most of their products, and it is a blend again of 4 to 7-year-old whiskeys. They are all ryes. One of them 95% rye, 5% malted barley, coming from Bardstown Bourbon Company, and then the other 2 from Sagamore. One is a 95.5 as well, and the other one is a 52-43.5, with that 43 being of corn. I've really enjoyed a lot of the stuff that Pursuit United has put out so far this year, and I do think that they really do a very good job with some of their finishing whiskey as well. So that might be a bottle you'll be on the hunt for. Thankfully, I was able to try it at the distillery as they were bottling it, as I stopped in one day, and I was impressed just from that, which is why it did make this list. Number 3 is always a bottle that I'm going to put on a list, and I believe I even included it in my last video right up there, bottles to look for in the month of May. I still have not seen it drop by me, and I'm kind of surprised, and that is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch B525. So the 525 means it should be in the month of May in 2025. I haven't seen it yet. We're now into July. That is certainly a bottle I will be on the hunt for. We do have the particulars. Last video we did not. It comes in at 126.2 proof. MSRP, of course, right at $74.99. And this one, 11 years and 6 months old, which is the oldest Elijah Craig Barrel Proof that we have seen since C923. So out of the last 5, this is the oldest. Proof point maybe not as high as some of the other releases, but I've heard good things from those who've sampled it. And Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is always going to be one of those bottles I seek out every release, just because they are usually solid, especially the B and C batches tend to be my favorite of the bunch. Now, number 4, a bottle I don't really have a whole lot of knowledge about, but I do love the brand. That is still Austin. They've got their red corn bottled in bond. It was listed on their website a couple of weeks ago, so it is already released at the distillery. They sold out. I believe the MSRP is $85. Not 100% sure on that. I did see another report that it was $72.50. Whether or not that's true or not, we'll see. But that comes in at 6 years old and 100 proof, of course, because it is a bottle in bond. As far as the percentages on this, 36% red corn, 34% white corn, 25% rye, and 5% malted barley. This was distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, by Still Austin. Big fan of what they're doing over there. So that's a bottle that you're probably going to want to keep an eye out for if it does make it to your local liquor store. Number 5, another bottle that has already hit the shelves across most of the country. I've seen it a lot in Southwest Ohio, and I've seen it pop up in many areas across the United States, and that is Penelope Cigar Sessions Batch 1 whiskey. It is a blend of 3 different whiskeys that is supposed to pair with a cigar. Comes in at 101 proof. The price tag on this still affordable. The first 5 here on the list, I was really trying to keep affordable for you if you're keeping an eye on this. It's slightly higher, $79.99. But still under that $80 mark, at least for MSRP. It is officially 6 years old, but I'm sure there's blends of some older bourbons and whiskeys in there as well. From what I've been told, this is a mash bill, or a derived mash bill of 72% corn, 15% rye, as well as 13% malted barley. And this is a blend of straight bourbon, single malt, and American light whiskey, which is all coming from MGP. Very good from what I've heard from some reviews. I did just get myself a bottle of it, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that future review. It was developed in collaboration to match, or at least aid in cigar smoking. When you hear of a cigar batch, a lot of people think that it's going to have a tobacco flavor. It's actually supposed to pair well with the cigar, and that's what the folks over at Penelope say that this was developed for. Now, before we move into number 6, I hope that you have already gotten some value out of this video, maybe learned about a bottle or two, and if so, make sure to smash that subscribe button below, as we're pushing towards 12,000 subscribers on the channel, and we're hoping to get to 15,000 by the start of September, which is the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. That would be a great milestone to hit as we move on into National Bourbon Heritage Month, the month of September. So hit that subscribe button below. And number 6 is a bottle that I think is very good. I got to try part of it at the distillery earlier this year, and that is a baseball-themed bourbon, Remus Babe Ruth 2025 edition. Now, last year the 2024 edition came out. Now they've got the 2025 edition, proofed at 111. This is coming from Remus, or Ross and Squibb, also known as MGP. And if it's coming in a Remus batch, that means that MGP's putting their best whiskey within that bottle. It is an 8-year-old along with some 9-year-olds blended in there as well. Only 8,399 bottles available, one for every at-bat in the big league career of Babe Ruth. And you can look up what that actual at-bat of your bottle number, what he did in that at-bat, which is kind of a cool token as well. Now, it is a blend, or a medley as they call it, of 3 different high rye bourbons, which is a nod, they say, to Babe Ruth's number, which was 3. Of course, those are all coming from MGP. One of those high rye mash bills is 44% rye, the other 49% rye, and then their general 36% rye high rye mash bill, which would be 60% corn, 36% rye, and 4% malted barley. And as I mentioned, 8- and 9-year-old bourbons, that means they were distilled in 2016 and 2017. It does have a slightly higher price point, $150. From people who have tried it so far, they've told me that this is much better than last year's, and the one that I tried from last year was very good. And the sample of the first blend that I had earlier this year with Ian Sturzman was very good as well. So this might be one that I would grab if I could find it, especially at $150. Popping up at number 7 on my list is going to be a distillery-only release, and that is Starlight Distillery's 10-year-old bourbon, which will be dropping at the distillery itself July the 26th. And this is one that is absolutely delicious. I've already tried it because I was part of a team, or at least part of a group of people that they brought in to try all 8 barrels of that blend and see if there were any single barrels that stood out. And we tried it all blended together, and the blend itself was by far the best of the bunch. 8-barrel blend, as I mentioned. All those barrels were Sagoon Moreau barrels out of California. It does have a higher price tag of $250 for an MSRP. Trust me, it is delicious. The decanter is beautiful that it's going to be coming in as well. Now, this, of course, is 10 years old, as I mentioned. It is the highest aged bourbon that Starlight has ever put out. And if you haven't taken a trip there, it is just an absolutely stunning campus to check out. Supposedly, the second most visited distillery in the United States every year, with about 800,000 visitors, only behind, from what I've been told, Buffalo Trace Distillery. So again, a great spot to check out. Proof point on this, 120.3. It is absolutely fabulous. I know that they did a special tasting of it a few weeks ago that you had to have a ticket to get. This is going to be one that if you are in southern portions of Indiana or near Louisville, you may want to make the trip up and go check them out. $250, I know that it is a high price tag, but the whiskey is very, very good. And this is the oldest bourbon that they've ever put out. Another distillery-only release pops up at number 8 on my list, and that comes from Jim Beam Distilling Company, or James B. Beam Distilling Company. And that is the Jim Beam Lineage Batch 2. So Batch 1 dropped, I think, in 2023. This is going to have the exact same price tag, the exact same proof point, and the exact same age statement. 15 years old. 111 proof with an MSRP also of $250. One thing of note, this has 15 to 20-year-old barrels blended within it. It does come in a 700 milliliter bottle. That release itself at the distillery will be Friday, July the 18th, and they may intermingle it from there on out. There will be an event, I believe a dinner on the 17th that they're going to be hosting for part of their supper club that I think you'll be able to buy it if you've got a ticket to that as well. It is a limited edition bourbon. This is, again, the second one that they've ever done, and this is a collaboration between Fred No and 8th generation master distiller Freddie No. As they've done this together. And supposedly it's fabulous. Of course they're going to say that. But I tried Batch 1 a few weeks ago at the distillery when I did a barrel pick with Knob Creek. I think that this is going to be a bottle that if you can get a hands on and if you can afford it at $250, certainly one to keep an eye on. Number 9 and 10 kind of go hand in hand together. Baumberger's Declaration and Shanks Whiskey. Last year I did a review on the two of them. I was a little bit more disappointed in the Shanks. This year's Baumberger's PFG was fabulous. I wonder what the Declaration version of that's going to be. Of course, the Declaration, just as always, 108 proof. This year's MSRP, $120. No age statement on this one, but they said 2,477 total bottles in 2025 for the Baumbergers. And then for the Shanks, that is again the low proofer, 91.2 proof, MSRP slightly lower, $110. Both of those numbers went up last year, but they are the same this year from what the SRP was of last year's bottle. 2,685 bottles of the Shanks. Personally, year to year, I think they vary. I enjoyed the Baumbergers more last year over the Shanks, but a few years ago, I liked the Shanks better than the Baumbergers. So if you get a chance to find one, maybe at a bar to try it before you buy it, but overall, some of the better whiskey that Michter's puts out there every year, part of that entire legacy lineup. And then finally, at number 11 is a bottle I've actually done a review on already because it technically dropped in some areas late June, and they've been intertwining it throughout the gift shop here the last week or two. And that is Russell's Reserve 13-year Batch 6. I did do the full review of it up there if you want to check that link. I also have that in the description below if you want to watch the full review of that Russell's 13 video. I'll also link it at the end of this video as well. Highest proof point ever, not only from a Russell's Reserve product, but a batched wild turkey product ever at 123.8 proof, of course, $13. One thing I didn't love about it, price point went up 33% from batch 5, which was back in late 2023. It's now at $200. That's a little bit of a jab to the heart, especially as they've continued to bump up their pricing. But that is a bottle that I think that if you love Russell's, if you love wild turkey, that Russell's 13, of course, is going to be one of those more sought-out bottles that a lot of people are hunting. And then I've got one bonus one for you, but I'm not 100% sure if it's legit. But I did see it on Breaking Bourbon's website. Usually they don't swing and miss, but there's supposedly going to be another Old Fitzgerald VVS this year. This one supposedly an 11-year-old VVS. That would be the 4th of the installment. Of course, last year we had the 2024 edition. There was one in 2018, and again, a 16-year-old, I believe, in 2020. Those are always very, very good. VVS, very, very special. So if that does drop, it would be a distillery only to start, and then probably only in Kentucky if it moves anywhere from that. Probably going to be loaded up on the secondary market if you can find anyone who gets one. And I wouldn't be surprised if the secondary price on that jumps through the roof. Last year, the 13-year had an MSRP of $225. I would assume this one should be lower than that, probably closer to $200. If you're a huge Old Fitz fan, of course, it's going to be one to add to the collection. Again, it was kind of an honorable mention because one, I don't know if it's actually true, and two, if it is, it's going to be highly allocated and it's going to be really hard to get your hands on. But I wanted to get that out in front of you to make sure that you knew about it at least, especially if you're heading down on the Bourbon Trail to maybe head out towards Heaven Hill or somewhere near Bardstown. Now that does wrap up the list of 11 different bottles that you should be on the hunt for as you head out and about here in the month of July. I will add a couple more. I do have some barrel picks dropping that will be moving not only through the month of July, but also as we push on into early August. If you want to be one of the first ones to get access to that, you're going to want to join these guys. My Storm Chaser crew, which is what I call my Patreon and YouTube members. They're scrolling right there on the right side of your screen. Amazing people. And if you want first access to that, behind the scenes content, or some special gear and merchandise sales, well, you're going to want to join that. I've got the link in the description below as well. So if you enjoyed this video and you got some value out of it, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and share this video with one of your bourbon or whiskey loving friends and tell them which bottle on this list you're on the hunt for here as we move out throughout the rest of the month of July and into the back half of 2025. I'll end this the same way I always do. Please remember to drink responsibly, but that it is always whiskey weather, and I'll see you in that Russell's 13 review in that next video. Cheers, y'all.